Yeah, there you go.
Green lines.
Green lines? All right. Thank you very much. So I guess right away you can tell, I'll admit right away, I'm only 18 years old, and I didn't want to drink here tonight. I'm the only one here who's going to remember what happened. I am here to talk tonight a little bit about character, and what can I know about character? 18 years old. I learned about character in my last year of high school, in a very significant way, a very quick way. And when I was in high school, I'm happy to say that it turned out that I won $150,000 in scholarships in my last year of school. I give a lot of talks to young people. I go around to different schools in Newfoundland and in Ontario, and I give talks, and the question I get is, how did you do it? How did you do that? How did you win $150,000? What was it that made you stand out? Amongst thousands of people who applied for these scholarships all across the country, what made you, a little guy from Bell Island, what made you stand out amongst 1,000 other people? And I'm always happy to say it was character. Let character be the deciding factor. That's what I want to talk to you about tonight. So our story actually starts in room 3023 at the Memorial University of Newfoundland, where I'm ruining the biggest opportunity of my life. In that room, I'm having a breakdown. I'm crying my little heart out. All these experiences I'm going to tell you very briefly about, they've all shattered. All these initiatives I've done in my years of high school that have led me to be someone who could apply for these huge scholarships. I've lost it all. I'm having a breakdown. I'm crying in the middle of the interview rooms. And the reason I'm crying is because they've asked me a question that I can't answer. And as soon as they ask me the question, I get this feeling and it makes me stomach sick. Because I know what the answer is, but I can't bring myself to say it. And before I tell you what happened on that day, I'm going to tell you how I got there. When I was in the 10th grade, I applied to go on an expedition to the Arctic with an organization called Students on Ice. And that was when I learned about stepping outside my comfort zone. And if you want to develop your character, if you want to have that strong moral fiber, if you want to be able to let character be the deciding factor, it often comes down to being able to step outside your comfort zone. So I'll tell you a little story about when I was in the Arctic. I was in the Arctic one day, and you guys know who Peter Mansbridge is? Name dropper, that's all I am. That's all I am, just dropping names. So while I was on this expedition, and I'm somebody who enjoys public speaking and who hopes to be in journalism someday, and Peter Mansbridge was on the expedition. So for me, this was like being a hockey player and having your favorite hockey player on the ice with you. This was a big deal. So one day they decided to pump solid this on-deck pool full of Arctic Ocean water. And they're trying to get the students, from all over, myself included, get the courage to jump in this water. So to do this, they start chanting names. My friends in the back there, they're like, God, we've heard this story so many times. So they start chanting names. And they're chanting like, Jeff, Jeff, Jeff. To finally Jeff would jump in. Then they come to me and they start chanting my name. Donovan. I'm like, no, Donovan's not jumping in, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like jumping out the wharf on Bell Island is good enough for me. Like the Arctic Ocean's a bit too far. So they move on, they start chanting other people's names. They start chanting like Rachel. Finally Rachel would jump in. They move on, and then finally they chanted just about everybody's name. And then I think, I've escaped it. I don't need to jump in. There's like 5 of us left, I'm done. And then sure enough I hear Donovan. I hear Peter Mansbridge chanting my name. And I'm thinking to myself, Peter Mansbridge is chanting my name to take my clothes off? This is as good as it gets. So naturally I start to strip down. So I'm like taking like every layer off that I have. Well, proudly I'm stood there in my long johns. And I start to take off, I'm running for this pool, everything that I got. Fireworks going off in my head. And I'm running. I get to the edge of the pool, everyone's still chanting my name, but all I can hear is Donovan. So I get to the very edge, and I do this big, matrix leap from the edge. I'm in the air, and then as I get in the air, I see everyone's arms have dropped. They look devastated. They look like somebody's about to die. This is midair, of course. And I look over, and Peter Mansbridge is there, and he mouths to me, the wall. I look in front of me very quickly. Once again, I'm still midair. This is happening so fast, and dividing this pool in half is a solid wall. This is going nowhere good. And who's headed for the wall? But Donovan. So 2 seconds later, I smack right into that wall, taking this huge mouthful of the salt water. People start jumping in. They haul me out of the water. I got one hand on the deck, coughing up all the salt water. I stand up. I'm holding myself a big bruise. It's already starting to form. Everyone's looking at me. I'm like, oh yeah. And Peter Manders looks just down. Maybe you should have jumped in after all. And on that day, I stepped outside my comfort zone, and I took my clothes off to Peter Manders. When was I going to get to do that again, right? And that was a character builder for me on that day. That day when I realized how important it was to step outside my comfort zone when I had the chance. So I went to the Arctic. I was lucky enough to see, polar bears and the wildlife of the Arctic, to be amazed by seeing glaciers melting and really get this new respect for the planet. So when I was in the Arctic, it was completely this character builder. 4 months later, I went to Antarctica, at the bottom of the planet. I was 17 at the time. I can remember telling my mom I was not going to be home for Christmas. I was going during Christmas. Another character builder, learning about the separation from family, all these transitions, and having to once again take these risks and step outside my comfort zone. So all these things started happening to me while I was in high school. I was getting all these opportunities. I would take every one, every second, every chance I got. And eventually it turned out that I was going to get this opportunity to apply for these scholarships, and I did. And my scholarship was riddled, the application was riddled with those stories of these incredible experiences that I had. I talked to them about how I stood in front of the United Nations leaders, told them they didn't know who was in charge. I stood in front of them and told them that the planet was in charge, and all the stuff I had learned during my last years of high school. So I had all these amazing experiences, and I thought, maybe I got a good shot at this scholarship because of all these things that I've done. I had this huge, wicked list of accomplishments. I can do this. So I'll bring you back into the interview room. I get in the interview room, and they ask me a question. And by now, the interview had went really well. And then they asked me this question. Here's the question. They said, if you could have lunch with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be? So I thought to myself, right away, I knew. And then I thought, I got to say Nelson Mandela, right? Or I got to say Mother Teresa. I even thought maybe Shakespeare. I'm that big of a nerd. I would have lunch with Shakespeare. That'll win me the scholarship. And then I thought, no, I can't say that because that's not true. And I started to cry, and they just looked at me and they were like, what is this boy doing? Why is he crying? And they were just kind of waiting for me to answer, and I looked at them, and then from this place inside me I didn't know existed, I said, my grandmother. When I was in the 9th grade, my grandmother passed away. She was an incredibly inspirational figure in my life, mother of 14. She had over 30 grandchildren. She was somebody who really instilled in me at an early age the importance of being able to get up on a stage like this and tell your story. She said that could get you places. So I let character be the deciding factor. And I said my grandmother. I said I would not have lunch with the president. I would not have lunch with Nelson Mandela. I would have lunch with my nan. I said this through the tears, and they said, all right, Donovan, your interview's over. I stand up, I go outside, I look in the mirror in the bathroom, I'm crying, and I think, what did you just do? You had a shot at 80 grand, and you said you had lunch with your grandma? Now they'll do it. Good job, Donovan. So I'm in the bathroom. One of the interviewers, he knew I was so upset. He comes in, he puts his hands on my shoulders, and he says, Donovan, that was the right answer. I was just trying to make me feel better. I go on with this scholarship, compete at the national level. Sure enough, I get a phone call. Congratulations, Donovan, you won 80 grand. How did I do that? It wasn't from, those the stories of the Arctic. It wasn't from this list of achievements. It was from saying I wouldn't have lunch with Nelson Mandela. It would be my name. If you can let character be the deciding factor, that's what will make you stand out in front of 1,000 other people. When you're a box of essays and you've got to stand out, let character be the deciding factor. And that's what will get you where you are. The other scholarship, first thing I did, I walked into the interview room, these huge executives, $70,000 scholarship. I walked in, I looked at them, I said, is this the auditions for Canadian Idol? Of course they cracked up, and I had them then. And I went in there with humor, another part of my character. So I think I'm just about done here, and I'll leave you by saying that when you have to let yourself stand out, when Barry got up here, or any of the other two speakers, what made them stand out? It was the moments when they let their character be the deciding factor. You do that, you wear it on your sleeve, and you'll go places. Thank you very much.